Big bats down to 1-5. 5 over cross up the thingo. Nose, baseball, hieroglyphics, hopscotch pouch. Inevitably, 2-4-8-4-8-4-8-4-8. I with the 2-2-2. 3-4-5. Down here, mother. We're all home now. I'm impressed I managed to do that in one take. Hey guys, it is me, Lau, back again with another I was about to say another reaction. It's another one of these vocal analysis videos, which you guys showed so much support for the first one with Michelangelis, but you guys were very, very vocal that George Carlin was the better narrator. I get it. I do understand where you guys are coming from. And I think, to be honest, I think the biggest thing is that it's a cultural difference. So, British accents in general are kind of flat. We have a very kind of flat tone to us that doesn't really communicate. That's why some Americans can barely understand what we're saying sometimes, because we have such a flat tone and we can't communicate as effectively. I'll put that in quotation marks because I can hear it just fine. But in certain accents and certain tones, we have to kind of, so Michelangelis, what he does for narration is he compensates with pitch to communicate that emotion. George Carlin doesn't need to do that because American voices are more naturally expressive. And, like, honestly, you'll hear with every, like, American accent, there's just so much more, there's so much more expression. And the emotion communicated is communicated more effectively, I'm trying to say. God's sake. So, yeah, I can totally see why you guys prefer George Carlin. And especially, he knows how to place his emphasis as well, whilst keeping a steady tone. Because one of the things, a steady pace in his narration. Because one of the complaints with Michael is that sometimes he has a habit to rush sentences, and you can't hear what he's saying. So I thought for this vocal analysis, we would go into the only episode where I listened to the US narration first. I will never forget it. It was 2010, I believe January, and I was the first time I ever discovered YouTube. First thing I looked up was Thomas the Tank Engine videos. What came up was a Wooden Railway remake of Toad Stands By, and it had George Carlin's narration. I was sitting there completely befuddled. I was like, was this the narrator I grew up with? God, he sounds so different. And like all this terminology, like freight cars, cabooses, I was so put off. But I did actually ended up really liking his narration. I really liked his how expressive his kind of voice was. I liked his general tone, and it was a big surprise for I believe 6-year-old me. So yeah, so that was my introduction to George Carlin. Was this episode a remake of this episode? I didn't watch the actual episode till much later, but I thought it'd be fair to use this as the talking point for George Carlin's narration. So drop the video a like if you enjoy, guys. Subscribe to the channel too if you want to see more content like this. I do plan to do more vocal analysis videos, say on Ringo Starr, Alec Baldwin, even Michael Brandon. I know Michael Brandon's had some good moments. Yes, Aaron, I do see you. You've been on my ass about how Michael Brandon is actually a good narrator. Okay? But, yeah, let's get into this, shall we? So, Toad Stands By, but we're looking at George Carlin's narration.
Oliver had been to the works to be mended.
Like I said, that kind of steady pace with, you can actually understand what he's saying. Effectively, he doesn't need to change his pitch as much to communicate emotion.
Some cars tricked him, and the Great Western engine fell into the turntable well.
It's just so much more effortless.
Now Oliver was as good as new, but he was still worried about cars. I'd rather not use them, he puffed to himself.
I do wonder, though, for Season 4, where did his New York accent go? Because in Season 3, he gave Oliver a New York accent, and it actually works. Like, I didn't mind. Obviously, Sodor is based in the UK, but I don't mind people using American accents for the characters if they fit, like George the Steamroller, and as we're going to see in this episode, Scruffy. Like, those voices work with those characters, so if you want to give them an American accent, by all means, go ahead. But obviously, you are going to see, like, that's one of the things with George Carlin. He's amazing with different, like, voices and different accents. He's honestly amazing. You are going to see with his Donald Douglas voice. Oh my God.
But the cars sang songs rude and loud. Scruffy, their leader, led the chorus.
Oliver's no use at all, thinks he's very clever, says that he can manage us. That's the best joke ever. Why did Michelangelo have to shout that song the entire way through? At least Carlin's actually singing it.
Thinks he's very clever, says that he can manage us. That's the best joke ever. When he orders us about with the greatest fun.
Also, we're not going to mention that his singing's actually better than Ringo Starr singing We Wish You a Merry Christmas, considering Ringo Starr's a freaking beetle.
We just push him down the well. Pop goes old Ollie. Thomas, Duck, and Percy were shocked. Be quiet, they ordered. But they couldn't be everywhere, and everywhere they weren't, the cars began again.
See, he's very good at enunciating. I suppose that's what happens when you do live performance, is you get very used to enunciating your words and being able to project to even the people at the back what it is exactly you're saying. So one fun fact I did actually find out from this episode a while back was George Carlin, because he was so used to performing in front of an audience and not in front of a microphone, he actually had a teddy bear in the recording booth with him whilst he was recording the lines. And I really love that. Like, that's a natural born performer right there. It's someone who literally is so used to performing in front of people that they need that stimulation of an audience to be able to deliver the lines to the most effective way possible. I love that. That's a rumor. Like, I'm not sure if that is true. If someone else can confirm that in the comments, please do.
Oliver's no use at all.
That truck's face is terrifying. Oh, look! Henry spooked!
That's the best joke ever. At last, the engines gave up. We're sorry, Oliver, they said. It's really my fault, said Oliver sadly.
Like, he doesn't need to change his pitch. He doesn't need to try as hard as Angelus. I appreciate that Angelus tries hard, and that's why I love him so much. He's having fun with it. It's out of fun. But George Carlin, he doesn't need to. So I think in terms of vocal qualities, he's not stressing as much. He's not trying as hard. So it sounds more natural, effectively, when because he can use that kind of natural emphasis of his and that expression to, like, create these characters and effectively communicate their emotions in the scene. So big up George Carlin.
I shouldn't have fallen in the turntable well. Toad, the brake van, felt sorry for Oliver, too. Next morning, he spoke to Douglas. I'm worried, Mr. Douglas. This disrespect for engines, where's it going to end? Who knows, sighed Douglas.
This man's Scottish accent, I love his Scottish accent so much. It's amazing. Like, he has the best Donald and Douglas voice of any narrator in the series. I swear to God. Like, Ringo also does pretty good, but George is... What? Where did he learn to do that kind of Scottish accent? I'm blinded by his talent. He's just... He seriously could have been a voice actor. He could have been a full-on actor. Obviously, his heart is with, like, comedy. But, oh my God. I'm hyping up his frickin' Scottish accent, man. How British does that make me? Oh, come on.
I've got a plan, Mr. Douglas. May I stay here today and help Mr. Oliver? We are both Great Western and must stand together. Certainly, Toad, replied Douglas and puffed away.
Like, he's so good at kind of noticing those places where, like, where that emphasis is needed. Again, I've used emphasis a lot. I have emphasis on emphasis, effectively, but just choosing that time when to kind of raise his projection to communicate emotion. Like, Oliver's kind of like, Toad is in that position. We're most Great Western and must stand together. Certainly, Toad. That was awful. I'm sorry, but I was trying to kind of emphasize the projection that he was using. He knows so when to use that and when to, when to change that volume.
Soon Toad was explaining his plan. Goodness gracious, Toad, I don't think you should suggest such a thing to Oliver. But Oliver interrupted. No, Duck, Toad's right. It's really my fault. I must put this trouble right. I meant no disrespect, you understand. Of course not, Toad. Anyway, Driver says the same, and he's arranged it with the station master.
Like, I think for a lot of people, George Carlin just brings these characters to life more. Not because of just the varying accents and voices that he gives them, but because just in general, like, that kind of human tone that he gives them. These characters sound more human. And I think that's one of the things that people attest to Thomas so much, is the characters feel like real people that you can talk to. George Carlin, like, feels like the most natural, in terms of characterization, they feel the most natural for most people coming from Carlin. And, like, I think that's what a lot of people, like, really appreciate about him.
Very well, Oliver, conceded Duck. But I must hurry. My passengers will be waiting. Good luck.
And the thing is, he doesn't even need to put like a full accent on to communicate what character is talking. That very subtly adds that kind of smooth tone to Duck. Very, very subtle. His natural voice is still kind of there, but there's a natural smoothness to his voice. Goodness gracious, Toad. I don't think you should suggest such a thing to Oliver. So even just the subtleties, there's so much control over his emotion and his projection and his tone. He's able to use those different vocal qualities for the character's advantage, but not make it sound oversaturated or overacted like Angelus comes across a lot of the time.
Long, smiled Oliver bravely, but he felt dreadfully nervous inside.
His emphasis is so good, man!
Oliver marshaled the worst cars 2 by 2.
Dreadfully nervous inside.
That's the way, Mr. Oliver, whispered Toad. And if you leave that scruffy till last, then you'll have him behind you, and you can bump him if he starts his nonsense. Hold back, whispered Scruffy, and pass the word to the others. The silly cars giggled.
As well, like, and his narration, when he's narrating, there's such a consistency in his tone. There's obviously emphasis, like I mentioned, but his tone is so consistent when he's the narrator. You can clearly tell when a character's talking, when he's talking. It's so clear. But it's still kind of subtle in a way where it's not, like I said, not overacted. Also, one final thing I'll mention. I swear to God, if you close your eyes and if you remove the music and just close your eyes and just hear his narration, you could be able to tell what the emotion of the scene, what the tone of the scene is, just by hearing his narration. And that's so difficult to do. That's talent. That's proper talent.
But Oliver knew what to do.
See, just there's determination in that tone. Very and subtle, and it's but it's there.
Oh, groaned Scruffy. I don't like this. Go on, yelled Duck. Well done, boy. Well done. Oh, wailed Scruffy.
Yeah.
I'm coming apart.
God, that shit hurts.
And he did. Then there was trouble. Well, Oliver, so you don't know your own strength, is that it?
I think one character that all narrators nail is the Fat Controller. Obviously, I have a soft spot for Michael. I think he adds that little bit extra because of the northern accent, but I think like he's such a distinct character that his voice is so you know kind of what voice to kind of use for him. You want something booming but also gentle. It's so distinct and kind of so clear. Every single narrator's voice for the Fat Controller.
No, sir, said Oliver nervously.
Again, communicating emotions so effectively.
Scruffy. As I thought. Rotten wood, rusty frames. Maybe if we put you back together, you'll earn yourself a better name. Nowadays, Oliver only takes the cars when the other engines are busy. But they're always quick to warn each other. Take care with Mr. Oliver. If you play tricks on him, you'll never be the same car again. Scruffy has learned his lesson and says nothing at all.
Honestly, like, I can see it, guys. I concede. I can see why you guys love him so much. And I love him too. Like I said, he's my comedian, and I really, really love his narration. So, yeah, I never hated George Carlin. Let's just say I never hated the guy. Yeah, just in general, I think in terms of vocal qualities, he's probably the most refined narrator. And what I mean by refined is he's the one that, like, if you had like a narrator's handbook and there are all these things that you need to do, so you want a consistent tone for the narrator, you want to put emphasis on the characters to understand that the characters are talking, you want to add distinct character voices. If there was a handbook, if there was a Bible, if anybody gets that reference, I swear to God. If there was like a handbook for narrators, he ticks every single box effectively. Tone, check. Character emotion, check. Character voices, check. Scottish accent for the twins, oh fuck me, check. But just in general, he is that narrator, and I can understand there's just a lot of people that have him and his voice, and listening to him again, properly zeroing in on what makes his narration so special has definitely given me more of an appreciation for it, and hopefully it has with you guys as well. So yeah, no, I'm really, really enjoying the series. Hopefully you guys are too. Drop the video a like if you enjoy. This is Little Al BA speaking. Hopefully, I'll be getting to. You guys let me know which narrator you want me to do next. If you want me to go, might say back to Michelangelo. If you want me to do Alec, Baldwin, Ringo, or even Michael Brandon, like I mentioned. Hell, if you want me to do character voices for like Neil Crone's Diesel 10, for example, I can do that. So this series, it really depends on what you guys want, but I am having so much fun with this. So this is Little Al speaking. I will see you guys next time.